Hi, Andy XL back with my NFXL podcast, and this is Week 16's Good Week, Bad Week. Week 16 was everything and more that makes the NFL the spectacular thing it is. Some truly incredible comeback wins and results that have had a hugely significant impact on the postseason uh, occurred this week. So, who comes out on the positive side of those games, and who has even been dealt a serious blow or even worse in terms of their postseason participation? So, I'll have a quick sip of coffee. Oh, and we'll get into it. The Pittsburgh Steelers had a good week, for sure. The Steelers came into week 16 in a head to head battle for the AFC North title. They pulled off a big road win in Detroit, whilst their rivals, the Ravens, lost at home to leave the Steelers 2 game clear at the top of the division, and just needing the Ravens to lose in Green Bay on Saturday or for themselves to beat the Browns on Sunday to become divisional champions. So week 16 gave Mike Tomlin, Aaron Rodgers, it brought all the season's joys they could have hoped for. Seattle Seahawks, they certainly had a good week. The Seahawks pulled off one of the most incredible wins of the season, trailing the Rams by 16 with 8 minutes left in the game. A punt return touchdown plus 2 point conversion, followed by a Rams three and out, and then their own two-play touchdown drive and another two-pointer. And 2 minutes later, the scores were level. And then after conceding an overtime touchdown to the Rams, came back with one of their own, and guess what? Clinched victory with a third two-pointer to go top of both the NFC West and the conference standings. The win gave them possession of what could be a hugely advantageous number one seeding in the postseason, which they may have to defend against the 49ers in week 18. Any win in week 16 would have made it a very good week for Seattle. To get it the way they did made it a truly fantastic one. And then it's going to move on to the San Francisco 49ers, who also had a great week. The 49ers' Monday night win over the Colts lifts them to second in the NFC West and was one of their best performances on offense of the season. So, a team that has been good all season may be now rounding into a very good team at the right time of the season to do so. If they win the last 2 games at home to the Bears and the Seahawks, they will finish top of the NFC standings and seemingly nowhere get that oh so vital week 1 bye in the NFC postseason bracket. It was a very, very good week for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jags win in Denver now only not only but all but secure postseason football for them, but has greater significance than the results itself, as it shows the Jags can beat any AFC opposition anywhere, and also that their quarterback can take them there. A few weeks back, I said the Jags were winning despite Trevor Lawrence now performing well, and that's to be a danger in the postseason. Sorry, a few weeks back, let's do that again. A few weeks back, I said the Jags were winning despite Lawrence not performing well, and that to be a danger in the postseason, they needed to win games because of him, not in spite of him. And that is just what is happening in recent games. So the Jags remain top of the AFC South and looking in as good a form as anybody in the AFC right now. The Chicago Bears. The Bears beat Green Bay and saw Detroit lose to give them a game and a half lead in the NFC North. Another win for them or loss for Green Bay, and they are divisional champions. And not many would have predicted that at the start of the season. So this has to be about as good a week as they could have hoped for, apart from actually clinching the divisional title, which they have a great chance of doing. And talking of clinching the divisional title, that's what the Philadelphia Eagles did. It's not been the prettiest seasons, but once again, the Eagles are NFC East champions. That may be due in no small part to the weakness of the other teams in this division, but it sends the Eagles to the postseason and 4 games away from defending their world champion status. It could well be the Rams or 49ers they host in wildcard week, so they will need to, or even Seattle, so they will need to find something near their best form to get past them. The Carolina Panthers, they pretty much had to beat the Bucks in week 16 to keep them in the NFC South divisional title race, and they did just about get the job done. If they shock Seattle in week 17 and the Bucks lose in Miami, that will make the Panthers divisional champions. If the Panthers lose to Seattle, then the Panthers will need to win in Tampa in week 18 to make this good result relevant. It was a good week for the New England Patriots. Another significant win, this time in Baltimore, puts the Pats in the postseason officially and also puts them back level with Denver at the top of the AFC standings. With the Jets and Dolphins to come, the Pats now have a shot at the top seed in the AFC and getting all the advantages that brings. Yes, they were helped by Lamar Jackson leaving the game early, but they did what good teams do and took advantage to secure their win. They still need to close out the season well though, to keep the Bills at bay in the AFC East. Los Angeles Chargers are another team with a good week. The win over Dallas secured their postseason spot and gives them a chance of winning the AFC West and also a slim chance of top seeding in the AFC. If they can find a way to overcome the informed Texans in Week 17, they get a shot at beating the Broncos in Week 18 to steal the divisional title away from Denver. So Week 16 was certainly another good week for the Chargers, as it was for the Bills, although they made hard work of beating the Browns in Week 16, they got the win, and following the Colts' Monday Night Football loss, that puts them in the postseason. If they can beat the Eagles and Jets in the final two games of the regular season and the Patriots slip up in one of their games, they could yet retain their divisional title. But it's more likely they face a road game in wildcard week. But a week in which you book yourself in for further action beyond week 18 has to be a good week. And the final team in good week section is the Houston Texans. A seventh win in a row gives the Texans the longest current win streak in the NFL and continues to mark them as the team to beat in the AFC. One more win for them or any Colts loss puts them in the postseason now. And although it will be a series of road games they will face them if and when they get there, they are the team everybody in the AFC will not want to face. So who had a bad week? The Detroit Lions, for sure. The Lions failed to overcome injuries on their O-line and at safety and in their secondary as a general as they lost at home to Pittsburgh in Week 16. That loss pretty much eliminates from the postseason, as any win for Green Bay or another loss for the Lions will confirm that fact. So another bad week in what has to go down as a disappointing season for Detroit. The Baltimore Ravens, similar comments have to apply to Baltimore after their home loss to the Patriots. They too have been hampered by injuries this season, losing Lamar Jackson in this game being the latest. They can still win the AFC North by beating the Packers in Green Bay in Week 17 if the Steelers lose in Cleveland this week. Then a win in Pittsburgh will get the job done. But this loss leaves them teetering on the edge in terms of falling off the postseason cliff. And the Indianapolis Colts are in a similarly precarious situation after losing to the 49ers in Week 16. They need to beat the Jags in Week 17 and hope the Texans lose to the Chargers to set up a win and you're in game with Houston in Week 18. And given the 7-game win streak of Houston and the 5-game slide the Colts are on, the odds are heavily against the Colts after this latest loss. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had another disappointing week. They lost to the Panthers, needing to match or better the Panthers' Week 17 result to set up a divisional titles decider with Carolina in Week 18. So once again, this latest loss is not terminal for their postseason hopes. But if Carolina were to beat Seattle and the Bucs lose to the Dolphins in Week 17, that would end their hopes. Whereas if they had won in Week 16, the roles would have been reversed with the Panthers having it all to do. It was a bad week for the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys were eliminated before they even played this week following the Eagles' Thursday night football win over the Commanders. But then they went down to defeat to the Chargers to round off a bad week and a bad season for the Cowboys. The Green Bay Packers overtime loss to the Bears, having lost quarterback Jordan Love during the game, leaves them in the final wildcard spot in the NFC and with only a small chance of overhauling the Bears to take the divisional title. One more win for them would secure their wildcard spot. Two more would mean the Bears need to beat the 49ers or Lions to take the division. But right now, this damaging loss looks likely to leave them facing a tough wildcard week road trip to Chicago or one of the 3 NFC West teams. Right, it was a bad week for the Los Angeles Rams. As I've said before, they controlled the game with the Seahawks for all but a mad 2 minutes of the fourth quarter and then the dying embers of OT. But this incredible loss combined with the 49ers win leaves them third in their division and probably having to take the wild card route in the postseason. And the first road game could well be in Philly now. So the Rams' hopes of winning it all have probably dropped from around 35% to 15% after a bad week 16 for them. But they still look like the team everybody needs to beat if they play as well as they did for the vast majority of this game. The Denver Broncos had a bad week. The Broncos' long win streak came to an end at the head of the Jags in Week 16. That leaves their grasp on top seed in the AFC weak. At the Chiefs and at home to the Chargers now lie between them and that top spot in the AFC. But potentially more than that, it shows the Broncos are vulnerable as a potential 1 seed. And that may be a false one as they continue to look vulnerable to good teams that play well. And in other news, which is obviously a growing section as more teams fall out of contention. Right, the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett got half a sack in another battling Browns loss. He's now just half a sack off the official record and one off equaling the unofficial record. 2 more and he'll break it. So he's within reach now for sure. The Tennessee Titans beat the depleted and demoralised Kansas City Chiefs, who played this game without Patrick Mahomes and also lost Gardner Minshew during the game. The Titans are now showing signs of future hope recently, whereas the Chiefs will look to reassess and go again in 2026. The Washington Commanders lost to the Eagles as their season continues to peter out tamely. The New Orleans Saints continue to finish this season strongly under Tyler Shugg at quarterback, notching a third win in 3 weeks against the New York Jets, who once again offered little or nothing on offense. The Minnesota Vikings just about overcame the New York Giants despite losing both quarterback J.J. McCarthy and running back Jordan Mason during this game. This loss keeps the Giants on track for the first overall pick in the 2026 draft. The Cincinnati Bengals offense showed what it could have done this season, putting 45 points on the board against the Miami Dolphins to show that they can look forward to the next season a lot more than Miami can. The Atlanta Falcons beat the Arizona Cardinals in a game that allowed both Jacoby Brissett and Kirk Cousins to advertise their NFL starting quarterback credentials, but held little interest outside of that. And the Las Vegas Raiders put up a stout showing against the Texans, but ultimately lost again to set up a first overall pick in the 2026 draft decider with the Giants in Week 17. So that's good week, bad week for this week. Next, I'll be back with my preview of the 3 Christmas Day games. So look for that in the next few hours. See you soon.